welcome and thanks for joining us on platform coming to you live from the studios of Nas Radio Yola on 89.9 megas, broadcasting from Fadimatu Alkali Abba House. Today on the show, we will be talking about gender-based violence, and we have some members of the Partners West Africa, Nigeria P1. We are going to discuss on issues that has to do with gender-based violence. This is Alamin Ibrahim Gire, welcoming you and urging you to please stay tuned and have a very good time listening. All right, once again, welcome to a platform. Let me introduce my guest discussants in persons of Nana Hawa. Nana Hawa, are you there with us on the phone?
Yes, I'm with you, Mr. Kiri.
All right.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome to platform on Nas Radio Yola.
Thank you very much.
I equally have with me on the line Aisha Abubakar. Aisha, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, you're welcome to platform on Nas Radio Yola.
All right, thank you very much, and glad to have you here too.
All right, same here too. Let me now set the ball in with Nana Aisha Abubakar. What exactly is gender-based violence, and why should every family in Adamawa be concerned about it?
Okay, the issue of gender-based violence is something that should be a concern to each and everyone. Be it someone who is actually in Adamawa or in the whole of Nigeria, even beyond. So violence, you actually realize that it has two different operational words. But I won't delve into a serious talk on the operational words. I'll start by asking generally, what is gender-based violence? And gender-based violence majorly refers to violence which is directed to an individual, either due to their sex or due to their gender. And I know a lot of listeners would actually be asking, what is the difference between sex and gender? There are actually differences with respect to sex and with respect to gender. So I would say that when we're talking about sex, it's actually saying that you're either male or female based on your biological differences. So biologically, we know that every human is created, let me say most humans are actually created. Either you have a biological frame of being a girl or a biological frame of being a boy. So this is literally saying that this is your sex based on your biological differences. But when you talk about gender, gender literally is saying that what are those social differences? It refers to those social differences and relations which exist between men and women. And you'll find out that the definition or the outlook of gender in one society is different from the outlook of gender in another society. So I'll give you a practical example. When you go to the southern part of Nigeria or some northern part of Nigeria, you'd realize that it is the women that do go to farm and the men do not go to farm, right? Yeah. They stay in their parlors to themselves and the rest. But a woman is seen to be the one to go to farm and then come back home and also cook. However, in other societies, it is something which is not the usual to see that is in our corners, right? Yeah. Let's say, for example, you go to Katsina.
All right, Nana, how are we together? Before we now, can you give us forms or types of GBV before we are able to establish communication back with Aisha?
Okay, I can just continue from where she stopped.
All right, go.
So that the conversation can flow.
Go ahead.
So what Aisha is trying to say is that even in as much as gender-based violence happens due to the fact that some people ascribe or feel that a certain gender is below a certain thing, and that's where you now see power imbalances taking place, because there is this belief that for someone of a particular gender, it's not a biological makeup as she explained. Gender is something actually with role attached to the biology of somebody. Like because you are a woman, and the society believes that as a woman you should not work, or as a woman you should not do this, you should not do that. So somebody else feels that, okay, since society, or since I believe that because I'm this particular gender, I should lord over you. That's where issues actually happen, when there is issue of power imbalance. And apart from power imbalance can even be not just in domestic affairs, it can even be in workplace. That's where you find out that in schools you hear people complaining of harassment because there is that power imbalances taking place. When you go to schools, you see issue. You go to workplaces, you see issue of harassment because of issue of power imbalance. And GBV actually is not. When we say GBV, the first thing that comes to head is that, okay, the violence might be from a man being meted to a woman, but it can actually be a woman that is actually being the perpetrator of such violence. We have heard cases whereby young boys will tell you that, oh, they were abused by an auntie. Or you see where somebody will say, oh, I look for a contract, and a certain person in power who happens to be a woman is demanding for some favors before she can do it. So it's when we talk of GBV, it comes to play mostly where there is a power imbalance, where a certain gender feels, or sorry, a certain person feels that, oh, I am up and above this other person and I can do as I may without facing any form of consequence. So now coming to the types of GBV, usually when we say GBV, the first thing that comes to head is maybe rape, sexual assault, abuse, wife battery, physical forms of. But we now realize with research and also with conversations that we have been having over the years that GBV goes beyond just rape, molestation, physical assault. GBV can actually be psychological. GBV can be financial. GBV can be economic in nature. So let's start with the physical. Physical GBV is the ones that we can see. What is apparent. When it is done to another human being, it is actually seen there. And most times, this physical violence is actually a crime, not even in the new laws that we have. It's a crime even in our old laws, which is the penal code. Even before the coming of the ACJL, this forms of violence is actually criminalized, which is like if you rape somebody, you have sex with somebody without their consent, when you physically assault someone by beating up the person or battering the person, when so in these situations, it's actually physical. It can be seen when you molest a child that is less than 18. It is seen as physical forms of violence. Then we have the psychological form of violence. In the case of psychological form of violence, it is not usually seen. It is felt within the mind and the heart. You see somebody moving about, you don't know, the person might be smiling outward, but you don't know that internally the person is in turmoil. Psychological violence can come from abuse. It can be you're not beating somebody, but the way you talk to the person, the way you speak low of the person loses confidence, feels they are not worthy, loses their self-esteem. And when we're talking about psychological or emotional violence, we realize that it's not just in intimate partner relationship. It can also happen between parents and child. There are some children that will tell you that they feel they are not loved at home because no good words ever come out from their mother or their father's mouth to them. They are always being insulted. They are always being felt like they are worthless. Even if a child is struggling in school, as a parent, the best thing is to see where is that child's weakness and how can I come in to guide this child, not to use words that will make the child to feel that he is as good as a hopeless human being. Then another form of violence is the financial. The financial abuse is where somebody is being deprived of getting either like maybe getting a job or doing businesses, or you see a situation whereby somebody is actually doing the job, but somebody else is collecting the money, and the person doesn't have control of they don't have financial independence. Either they don't have control of their financial independence, or they are being deprived of the means to even get the financial independence. You see someone who tell you that I'm a doctor, but I was told to stop working. Let me use the Hausa word, abakin aurenki. So so you have given the person no choice than to stop what they actually find joy in doing, what they spent years to study just because they want to help humanity. So that's another form of like the financial/economic violence that happens in our society today.
All right, thank you very much, Hawa and Aisha. We are back with you, right?
Yes, we are.
All right, thank you. Sorry for that interruption there. Now, can you please tell us the root causes of gender-based violence?
Okay. Briefly, I had my colleague Nana Hawa talking about some of the root causes of gender-based violence.
Yeah.
So I actually build up that. She made mention of gender inequality and power imbalances. Based on the structure of our society, we've actually realized that, and even supported by data, there is this embedded inequality that exists within our society, and also there is this power imbalance that we actually see. You can see bits and pieces of patriarchal structures. And majorly what I mean by patriarchal structures is to say that we already have in our society structures that perpetuate let's say, male dominance, and believe that women have no control in whatsoever it is within the societal structure. So automatically, it places women in a place where already they are at a level of defense rather than at a level of being seen as members of that society, part and parcel of that society. We also have social norms still that perpetuate or that brings about this power imbalances and also gender inequality. So social norms are saying that, just as I've mentioned earlier, women and girls are actually seen as inferior. So in a place where you realize that this person is already seen, or it is established that this person is actually inferior to the other, the one that is inferior is most prone to violence in that particular setting. We also have still things that lead to this gender inequality and power imbalances. We have what we call unequal power dynamics. So, for example, in relationships and in societies, again, I will still say women lack that power and resource to protect themselves from violence. I think she made mention of one of the types of gender-based violence, which is economic violence, right?
Yes.
Or rather, financial violence. Yes. So this is somewhat linked to issues that lead to unequal power dynamics within our society. Another major root cause of gender-based violence could be seen from the lens of cultural and religious factors. So if I'm saying cultural and religious factors, I'm saying it from the point of, let's talk about religion, for example. A lot of scriptures are being interpreted in a way that suits the men rather than suits the women. And if we look at the religion itself, be it Islam or Christianity, it doesn't say that literally that, okay, this particular gender is better than the other gender, right? Each and every person is seen as human, and every person is going to be judged according to his own actions. Nobody is going to say that the sin of a woman is lesser than the sin of a man, or the sin of a man is lesser than the sin of a woman. In the eyes of God, each and every one of us is actually saying the same. But we find ourselves in a society where, based on personal interests, most that are at the level of preaching to make people understand that each and every one should be seen as a human, and each and every person is responsible for his or her own acts, interpreting scriptures in a way that do not send a good message to the society, and more especially lead to the perpetration of violence against women and girls in the society. We also have what we call patriarchal beliefs. Patriarchal beliefs are just like saying that there are beliefs which are patriarchal. So there are cultures that promote the idea that men are superior to women. There are places where you will find in societies where, for example, let's say if there's a decision to be made that has to do with that society, the voices of women and girls is not being heard. So their own issues are not even being heard and understood. So, for example, in a society where we're talking about issues of rape, and those that are the major victims of that rape are what, women and girls. But you find out that those women and girls who are the victims of that rape in that society are not being brought to the table for the society to even understand that, okay, this is our own perspective. This is where we are coming from. And even as victims, we feel that this is the way that speaks to what justice is for. What justice is for us, right? So they are excluded from that particular table where decisions that have to do with them are even being discussed. We also have socioeconomic factors. So socioeconomic factors is usually speaking to, poverty within the society. And data has it that in most situations, if you go to societies, if you go to communities, you realize that women, again, are more at the receiving end than men. Men are richer than women, right? So, and that is because of the opportunities that are being presented. Before a lady can be able to have one opportunity, you find out that a man has had 2 to 3 or 4 opportunities that would actually change the trajectory of his own financial standing. Again, lack of education and opportunities. We still have societies that they do not see the education of women and girls as something which is of a priority. It is seen that it is more important to educate a man than to actually educate a woman. And you would realize that even in situations where, for example, they say that, okay, go to school. By the time she's done with her primary and her secondary school, the next thing is, sometimes they don't even allow you to go to the secondary school. By the time you're done with your primary, you feel that you have been educated enough, go and settle down. And we realize that this has done a lot of the service to our society because education is for all. Nobody says that a man should be educated and a woman should not be educated. Nobody says that a woman should not be educated and a man should be educated. So these are part of those, indicators or root causes to gender-based violence. Again, there is what we call individual factors. And when we're talking about individual factors, now these are attributed to the perpetrators of gender-based violence in our society. Sometimes you realize that there are drivers such as, drug abuse or the use of alcohol. A person goes to the bar, he drinks, he comes back, he's meeting his wife, he's not in his senses, and the next thing he's pouncing on her, he's beating her. Or he is drunk, he's coming back, he sees a girl, and the next thing that comes to his mind is, how can he have sexual intercourse with this girl? So these are part of, individual factors. We also have anger management issues, where a person does not have a control over his own anger. And, hiding under that umbrella, he chooses to, at the slightest opportunity, anything that is being said to him, he raises his hand, he beats his wife, he beats his daughters, he beats his own sons, and he causes, a lot of issues within the society that is not towards a positive trajectory. We also have learned behavior. So people get to learn behaviors maybe from their own parents. Let me give you an example. A child that grows up to see that his father abuses his mother is prone to also growing up and also abusing his wife. Because this is something that he has seen happening within his own family system. So there's nothing someone from the outside will come and tell him to say that, no, what you're doing is not right. What you're doing is not correct and you need to do better, because what better way of him learning than seeing what happens to his own mother, right? So if it is being done to his mother, then why are you telling me that I cannot do it to my own wife? And then finally, we can also see it from the perspective of systemic failures. So when I'm talking about systemic failures, we're seeing it from the perspective of what the government have actually put in place, what institutions have actually put in place, how much our legal, or rather our laws being implemented. We have the laws, we follow them, but the question is, are these laws implemented? In times where a person rapes another person, does the law get to the end to ensure that that person is being prosecuted and being punished? Along the line, you realize that institutions have helped in, aiding in such violence within the community. I'll give you a practical example. You rape a girl today in your society, and the next thing, you're being taken by the police. And the expectation of the family is that by that you are being taken to the police, automatically justice is going to take its course. And then the next day, you're coming back. You're now seeing the perpetrator of that particular act roaming about within the society. So you see, that kind of thing, you realize that institutions have also helped in aiding issues of violence within our society. Second is we have insufficient access to services. And we also have what we call this is something which is happening. It has been happening for quite a long period of time. But then I feel that people are more aware now. And this is from a perspective of...
All right, we still lost the contact. Okay, hello?
Well, try again.
Yes, can you continue?
Yeah. So,
now,
I think he has wrapped up most of the root causes of violence within our society. Also, what she highlighted
yes,
is actually where violence is being, why violence is being. So, building on what the last thing she said, on the fact that a perpetrator is being seen walking around the society, and the message that is being said is that there is no deterrence even within our own community. You see, within the community, forget the fact that the police has been involved and maybe the person got bail and is back in the society, and before you know it, people are not following up on the case and the case is dead on arrival in court. You see situations whereby somebody perpetrates an evil. There is a case of a man that they say has raped about 4 girls in one community. And this time around, why they even brought him forward is because he has raped the 5th girl. So that's why they even decided to take actions. We asked them, what happened when he raped the first one, the second one, the third one, the fourth one? That is now the 5th one that is now making you able to take action and say you will not agree to this. They're like, yeah, but for every time he did it, the family, everybody, they come begging, they beg the victims, they go to the traditional leader to beg on their behalf, that they go round to say he has changed and he won't do it again. And these are the situations that even as a community, we are also contributing to violence happening within our society. Because someone out there thought that when you see evil and you keep quiet and you don't say no to it, what you are trying to send, the message you are trying to send is that it's okay for another person to perpetrate it. I also tell you there's other person that, okay, when you commit this crime, yes, go ahead and commit the crime. All that will happen at the end of the day is you are going to beg your way out of it. There are even situations whereby they pay their way out of it. You hear that they say, oh, they are going to compensate the family. And you hear there was a compensation that was done as low as 70,000 naira. And guess what? 6 months down the line, they now discover that the girl is pregnant.
Oh.
And the girl, being a teenager that was scared, she was hiding herself. She didn't really tell her parents because the parents knew the pregnancy was over 5 months old. So now you have collected 70,000 naira in the name of compensation, and now your child is pregnant. What's the way forward?
This is serious.
So these are some of the issues that we keep encountering when it comes to GBV, and these are the causes because there is no accountability even within our society.
All right, we have Aisha back online. Now, you are talking about institutions that are supposed to protect the survivors of this heinous attack, gender-based violence. But does it mean that these laws are not well articulated or they are not present in Nigeria, Aisha?
What everybody that tells you that we don't have the laws is actually saying it based on his own personal interest. The laws are there. The law protects the victims, right?
Yes.
But the question, just as I've mentioned earlier, is about the issue of the implementation of these laws as seen to the letter. And if I'm going to say there are bits and pieces of things that I can actually say from a perspective of being a lawyer, right?
Yes.
But it's all going to be from the perspective of saying the law is not there. The law is there. First off, we have the ground norm, which is the Constitution, the 1999 Constitution. And everybody is aware of the fact that the provision of Chapter 4, which talks about human rights, it says every person. It didn't distinguish, you being a man or being a woman. It says as much as you are a citizen of Nigeria, you are already covered by the 1999 Constitution. The Chapter 4, which focuses on the fundamental rights, protects, and safeguards victims and ensures that those that are working, every person within the Nigerian jurisdiction is actually what is being protected. Section 35, I'll give an example. Section 35 says you have the right to husband. Section 36 says you have the right to fair hearing. 37 right to private life and family. And just as I've mentioned, it did not distinguish who these laws actually do apply. It applies to each and every one of us. And it even went further. That's why we won't have the fundamental rights enforcement procedure that says that in a situation whereby your right is actually infringed upon, or likely to be infringed upon, you can literally go towards fundamental rights enforcement, the enforcement of fundamental rights for a court competent jurisdiction, so that your right is actually going to be protected. However, again, I'll still see, there are bits and pieces where lawyers have, tried so much to abuse that particular protection which the law has given. At the core of gender-based violence, we have what we call the VAP law. And this emanates from the VAP Act, which is the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act. And the difference between an act and a law is simple. An act is from the national level, while a law is actually from a state level. So the National Assembly brings into, we have a bill. From the bill, once the bill is being passed, it turns into what? It turns into an act. However, for the state house of assemblies that we do have, once they pass a law, it actually becomes what? A law, but it is not actually being called an act. So we have a VAP law, we have a VAP Act, which cascaded to various states, which have also put in place those provisions of the VAP Act, and looking at also the context of their own society. That's why you see there are some bits and pieces of, differences from, let's say, for example, the VAP law that is in Kaduna, and the VAP law that is in Niger, and the VAP law that it is in Adamawa. But at the end of the day, what that law does is it protects any form of violation. So it is one of the core laws that we do have. I think maybe if we have the opportunity in other sessions, we can be able to go in depth into the provisions of this VAP law and also the VAP Act that we do have. Secondly, we also have the penal code. The penal code law and the criminal code law. The penal code law is what is applicable to all within the northern Nigeria, while the criminal code is actually applicable within the southern Nigeria. So for the penal code, which is peculiar to us, it has also given provisions that, protect or brings about the protection against violence within our society, more especially with respect to gender-based violence. For example, you see provisions that have to do with defilement of a child, provisions that have to do with rape, what rape is, if a person commits rape, what is the punishment, you understand?
Yes.
So these are also laws that we do have in place. We also have Child Rights Act, which also various states have also put in place to become a law within, domesticated to become a law within their own jurisdiction. But you see that the nomenclature, it also differs. In some places you hear child welfare and protection law. In some places you hear child rights law. And these are also laws, or rather, this is also a law that protects, a child, be it a male or a female, from any form of gender-based violence in our society. And we also have, international instruments, but just as I've mentioned, the other ones that I've mentioned were the, domestic laws, those that are indigenous to us within the Nigerian arena. But we also have legal international frameworks such as the CEDAW, which is the Convention against Convention against Convention on Elimination against Women, right? And we also have, I think we also have the Maputo Protocol also. These are, place towards to beat gender-based violence, and in situations where gender-based violence do occur, what is the next thing to do? So majorly, these are the highlights of the laws that we do have.
All right. I'm very sorry I have to interrupt you because we are running out of time. Maybe in a minute, Is there any message that you want every person listening today to remember about preventing gender-based violence, and what would that be?
Well, what I would say is the issue of gender-based violence should be the interest of each and every one. It's not just about the victims. It's also about every member of the society coming together to see that holistically issues of gender-based violence are reduced to the barest minimum within our own society. And in situations whereby anybody is being found guilty, let that person face the law, be it a man or a woman. And again, I think something which is at the core of it, we need to also understand that gender-based violence is not just perpetrated against women and girls. It's also perpetrated against men. However, based on the data that we have, women and girls are more prone to being victims of gender-based violence than men. Thank you very much.
All right, and then on the side of Nana Hawa Isa, are you there?
Yes, I'm with you.
What is your final word? What is your parting word, please?
Okay, on a final note, what I'll say is that when you see something, say something. Or do something. Don't just assume that it is not my child or it's not my family member and I will ignore it. So whenever we see something going wrong in our society or our community, please we should speak up or against it as far as it's against our beliefs, the norms, and also the constitution of the land.
All right, thank you very much. Listeners, that's the much we can take on this program platform, which came to you live from the studios of NAS Radio via telephone line. We've been speaking with Barrister Nana Hawa Isa and, of course, Aisha Abubakar, all of Partners West Africa, Nigeria, P1. Ladies, thank you for coming to NAS Radio via telephone. All right, this is Alamin Ibrahim Gire. Thank you for listening and do have a very good time.